Hey guys, it's Super Psych from Psychology of Superheroes. We're here to talk to you today about this new superhero that I just read about, Squirrel Girl. She was recommended by my good friend Kristen, and you should go check out her Facebook and online store at Kristen Makes Stuff. You should check it out. She makes some really awesome art. Okay, so we have a lot of psychology to talk to and only a little bit of time to get there, so let's just see what we can do. I never read anything about The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl before, so where I started was with her first series, The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl Volume 1 from 2015, and there's only 8 issues with that, so it took me a very short time to get through them. I think I actually binged everything that we're going to talk about today in one day. So, The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl's real name is Doreen Green. I'm not entirely sure how she got her powers, even after reading all of this. Kristen, maybe you could tell me. But, so, she has the powers of the squirrel. So, in like the same way that Spider-Man, has the proportional strength of a spider, she has the proportional strength of a squirrel. She has a tail, which I think is actually pretty cute. And she can talk to squirrels. She has an army of squirrels, which let's pause right there. She has an army of squirrels at her command. In the new trailer for Spider-Man Homecoming, Ned Leeds asked Peter Parker, "Can you summon an army of spiders?" And now that I have read Squirrel Girl, I want to know if that was like an inside joke that I didn't originally get, but now I do. That can't be a coincidence. That can't be a coincidence. Anyways, so issue 1 starts off, she's singing her own theme song. So like I said, she has the proportional speed and strength of a squirrel. She can also talk to squirrels. She has a sidekick named Tippy Toe. She takes out a robber by just flicking an acorn to his head. I thought that was pretty cool. But in this first issue, she's getting ready to go to college. And Tippy's kind of trying to like talk her out of it because, squirrels don't go to college. Why does Doreen need to go to college? And Doreen says, "I don't want to be the best me I can be. And there's more to being a superhero than just punching the strongest, I want to be able to help people." So she goes to college against her squirrel's advice. She feels conflicted about lying to maintain her secret identity. Doreen is a very honest person. She's very authentic about who she is as a person, which I absolutely love. I think that's an awesome quality. So, but to be a superhero, you really gotta lie a lot if you think about it, or at least hide the truth, because you have to protect that secret identity. Unless you're one of those people who doesn't care, like Iron Man. Technically, he doesn't lie very much about his secret identity because he just tells people, "I am Iron Man." But she's doing the whole secret identity thing. She's trying to go to college, be normal, I guess, an average college girl. So already in this first issue, she's fighting Kraven, who is one of Spider-Man's top foes. And what's cool is like when she fights these villains, she doesn't necessarily, she is strong, she has a lot of power behind her, but she doesn't necessarily always physically beat them. A lot of times what she does is she tries to figure out what is it that they actually want. How can she come up with a solution that benefits everybody involved? And that's what she does with Kraven. She helps him find a new purpose as a hunter. And so he goes off and does that instead of, trying to kill her or trying to kill Spider-Man. So she goes to college. She meets her new college roommate, Nancy Whitehead. And it took me a while to figure out why Nancy didn't want to be teased about her name. Which I was like, what's wrong with your name? Nancy has a white cat that she has named Mew. And Nancy says about her, "She's the most important thing in my life." Same Nancy. In issue 2, again, Doreen is, really bad about the whole lying about her superhero identity thing. She's not used to it. Also, she's not very good at talking to boys yet. When she's talking to this one very attractive guy on campus, she's talking to him, or rather, he's talking to her, and while he's talking, she's thinking through all of these things. She's in her own head, worrying, but also giving herself these really great affirmations, which is awesome. So one thing that I really took away from Squirrel Girl is I came away with this idea of this thoughts about positive psychology. So positive psychology is this branch of psychology that looks for, rather than focusing on people's weaknesses or deficits, trying to find like some sort of problem or a disorder, positive psychologists are looking, what are people's strengths? What's going good in their life? And what is it about those people that makes those good things? And other things that go along with positive psychology would be this idea of self-efficacy. This idea of how well do you think that you, how well do you think that you can do something? How much confidence do you have in yourself in able to complete a project or to do a certain behavior, or how skilled do you think that you are at whatever? That's an idea of self-efficacy. It kind of relates to self-esteem, but self-esteem is more about like, how do you view yourself as a whole, where self-efficacy is very specifically, how do you feel about your ability to do XYZ. So let's go back to this idea of that she does these affirmations, which are so cool. They're also actually really important, really useful. There's this other branch of psychology, or a theory more like social cognitive psychology, where it looks at, again, your self-efficacy, how you view yourself. And there's this idea that it kind of goes back to the idea of fake it till you make it, which works in some cases. So like looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, today I'm going to have a great day. I look awesome today. And telling yourself that puts you in a state of mind where you're a lot more confident as you go about your day. And there's also was a study where people who, got into the superhero stance, which is kind of hard to do in this chair, but, hands on your hips, Superman kind of thing. People who would do that, I think it was for like 15 seconds, I want to say, they felt more empowered just by doing that stance, by making themselves feel like a superhero. I think that's so cool. And Squirrel Girl is constantly giving herself these affirmations. When we're constantly like putting ourselves down or telling ourselves we can't do this thing or we're not good at this, whatever, that make ourselves feel lousy. These thoughts about ourselves affect how we feel about ourselves. So she makes these positive thoughts about herself, and therefore comes out with like an awesome attitude, which I think it's pretty cool. Also, she carries around Deadpool's guide to supervillain, and they're like these trading cards, kind of like Pokemon cards, but supervillains, and written by Deadpool. Sorry. Where can I buy these? Anyways, though, Tippy the squirrel says, we're everywhere and we're always watching. Okay, calm down. So Squirrel, she sneaks out Iron Man's armor via this squirrel army because these because the Iron Man suits are so distracted by her that they don't see this army of squirrels. So here's what happens. She goes in and she's fighting all of the armor, right? And while she's distracting them, the squirrels go in and actually steal some of the armor. And so what she's banking on is that the armor will be so focused on her that they never even see the squirrels. They never even detect this army of squirrels that you think that you would notice, right? But here's the thing, like, as kind of bizarre this plot story sounds, it actually makes a lot of sense to me, to be honest. Because of this idea of selective attention. This idea is that, okay, so we have our senses, right? We have sight, vision, hearing, taste, touch, smell. We have some other senses as well. Those are the 5 main ones that we talk about. We have all of these senses, and these senses are constantly taking in information. But thank goodness we're not paying attention to all of it, because there's so much information. It's like if we paid attention to all of it, none of it would get in. So like right now, I am paying attention to, I guess, the sound of my own voice. I hear that right now. But I'm not paying attention to the way my clothes feel on me. I'm not paying attention to, well, now I am. There's crickets outside. I wasn't listening to those before. All these things that, like, if it's not important information, we kind of just delete it. And we narrow in on the stuff that's actually important to us, the things that we want to be hearing. So, in this fight between Squirrel Girl and the armors, the Iron Man suits, what they detect as being important is Squirrel Girl. She's the threat at the time. That's what our attention needs to be given to. So, something else that they're not detecting, squirrels. They're not thinking, oh, we need to be on the watch out for squirrels. They're not paying attention for that. They're not looking for these squirrels. So they're able to sneak in kind of under the radar. That's the idea of selective attention. Another reason to love Squirrel Girl is that she uses science to beat whiplash. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty awesome. In an issue, in one of the issues, Nancy, Squirrel Girl's roommate, stands up to these bank robbers and she says, someone had to do something, you know? And there really was no good reason for it not to be me. So, first of all, like Doreen says, like Squirrel Girl says, kick butt. Her roommate is so cool. But also, there's this idea of, in social psychology, of the bystander effect. So, somebody's being hurt. Maybe they're crying out for help. Or you see something wrong that's happening. You know it's happening, but you don't necessarily do anything about it. And the theory behind why people don't do something about it is the theory thinks that people believe someone else will do it. So it's kind of like this lack of responsibility. But Nancy says, yes, someone will do it, but I'm someone, so why don't I do it? And the thing with the bystander effect is, if everyone's thinking someone else will step in, someone else will stand up for this person or go help this other person, if everyone is thinking that, then no one actually goes and does it. So the way to counteract the bystander effect is to do exactly what Nancy says, is to think, well, I'm someone, there's no reason why I can't be doing this. In the next issue, Squirrel Girl has a conversation with Galactus. Squirrel Girl has a conversation with Galactus, in which Galactus says, is your language that lacks a universally accepted gender-neutral third-person singular pronoun? And Squirrel Girl is like, hey, all the more reason to help affect positive change by being careful about the words you use, huh? And also, what's wrong with they? What a conversation to have with Galactus. Because, okay, so you have this I guess he's not all powerful, but you have this devourer of worlds, and you're taking time to be like, hey, let's use inclusive language. And I love that. And he's like, well, it's your language has the problem. I'm just the one using your language. And she's like, hey, language is something that changes and it grows and it's a living thing. And guys, there is nothing wrong with using they as a singular pronoun. I know that you grew up in, elementary school and whatever, and grammar critics will tell you, you can't use a plural pronoun for singular usage. But our language is constantly changing. constantly changing. And what's wrong with this generation making some change? What's wrong with making change in order to make other people feel more validated? What's more important in life? Grammar? Or ensuring that people are validated? Also, grammar is made up. It's just a bunch of rules that someone just came up with sometime. And like, it's important, but it's also just made up. And people's feelings are awfully important as well. Galactus also tells Squirrel Girl, "I like you, Squirrel Girl. You don't fear me. In all my travels, you are the first to approach me as a peer." What am I reading? So instead of fighting Galactus, Squirrel Girl figures out what his motivation is, what he wants, and then offers him a solution. Again, same way like with Craven, that meets both of their needs. And she typically does this with all of her bad guys. She's not about overpowering somebody. She's about, how can I work this out to everyone's benefit? I just think that's so cool. It's so kick butt. Okay, so she meets some other superheroes who are similar to her. Chipmunk Hunk and Koi Boy. And together, they deal with Hippo the Hippo. And that's cool. You know, he's robbing some banks. They stop him. She finds out that Chipmunk Hunk and Koi Boy are actually friends from college. So she's able to, like, Nancy knows her secret identity. Her college roommate knows her secret identity. But then she's also able to meet with people who are trying to do the college thing like she is, are also trying to do the superhero thing like she is. So she's finding people in the college scene who are a lot like her, which is pretty great. But she also meets a superpowered squirrel named Squirrel Girl, who is brainwashing people to be bad. So at first I'm like, is Girl Squirrel a squirrel who has the proportional strength of a girl? But that doesn't matter, guys. Girl Squirrel is actually Ratatosker. Squirrel Girl teams up with Thor, Jane Foster, that Thor, and Odin's son to save the world, which how kick butt. In the last issue of this series, Dorian says, "I am a superhero, and I am here to tell you that feeling insecure is nothing to be ashamed of. We all have anxieties, and this may sound crazy, they're actually kind of what makes us awesome." And she makes the point that, you know, we view envy and jealousy as really a negative emotions or negative feelings or negative behaviors, but they actually kind of show us what we want. Jealousy shows us what's important to us, the type of people that we want to be. And so we could dwell on the fact that we're not those people, or that we don't have those things that are important to us, or we could use that insight, that self-knowledge, to become the people that we want to be. So again, this goes back to positive psychology, focusing on those strengths instead of those weaknesses. The opposite of positive psychology is referred to as a deficits model. So that's where you're looking at, you know, symptoms, what's going wrong in that person's life, you know, deficits, negatives, that kind of thing. But with positive psychology, it really does like what Doreen is doing, where something that maybe you would consider a weakness, you kind of, I don't want to say twist it, but you look at it from a different angle, and you kind of try and figure out what is the good thing about this thing. Now, granted, people do have, like, if someone has a disorder, they're dealing with symptoms, there are definite negatives to that situation, absolutely, that, you know, no positive psychologist is trying to downplay. But the point that positive psychology does make is, okay, maybe you have these weaknesses, these symptoms, whatever, but that's not the only thing that defines you, right? Like, there's other things about you that are strengths. So what's going on there? And maybe how can we use those strengths to deal with, to best cope with those symptoms, those weaknesses that you all have already identified. The next thing I read was The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl Beats Up the Marvel Universe from 2016. Okay, so she gets cloned. And everything's pretty cool between Squirrel Girl and her clone until they see a run-over squirrel. And I understand this. I don't like seeing a run-over squirrel either. I am not saying that I get emotional about it, but I can imagine how much worse I would feel if I was so attached to squirrels and, you know, I see one that's run over. So, after seeing this run over squirrel, the clone kind of runs off. And then the clone starts cloning squirrels so that she can make them the dominant species on the planet. And she's arguing that, you know, squirrels are better and they're more good and less destructive than humans. Which, she kind of has a point. So the Avengers go to stop her, but she actually is able to take them all down. So the clone of Squirrel Girl really does beat up the Marvel Universe. But it's more like outsmarting them than outbeating them. Side note, the clone can't pick up Thor's hammer, obviously. She's not worthy. Keep that in mind. She does go and she takes down everyone, hero or villain, with powers. So with the clone, there's all these similarities, right? Like, obviously, they're supposed to be your exact duplicate. So what keeps Doreen, the original Squirrel Girl, from becoming like the clone, where she's cloning all these squirrels, she's trying to take over the world and give it to the squirrels, rather than having squirrels be the dominant species? What keeps her from going down that path? And I think one thing for me that came to mind was this idea of taxonomy of needs. So in the taxonomy of needs, it's a list of 3 different really important needs that all human beings have. And we all have them in different ratios. So for some people, one need might be more important than another. But in essence, we all have all 3 needs. So the first need is the need for achievement. So doing well, having that great paying job, an education, degree, that kind of thing. The next one is a need for power. So being able to have influence over people, control over situations. And the last one is need for affiliation. So needing to have that group, that family, relationships, those kind of things. Here's what I think. I think Squirrel Girl, her strongest need out of those 3 are probably her need for affiliation. She wants to have relationships. She has a very close relationship with Tippy Toe. She has everybody that she meets, really. She's creating some sort of bond with them. That's how she's able to defeat villains so easily, is that she forms some sort of relationship with them, even if it's just a temporary one, and to find out what they need. And then she helps them achieve that. I think maybe with the clone, she's more about her need for power. She needs to dominate. Now, that's not always necessarily a bad thing. Like, she's trying to do good. In her mind, she's trying to do good. She's trying to help out the species that she believes should be in charge, who are better, who are less destructive. But in order to do that, she needs power. She needs power to do that. And by beating all of the superheroes and the supervillains, what she does is she accumulates their powers, their gadgets. For example, she would take Thor's hammer if she was worthy. She'll take Iron Man's suits, Dr. Ock's arms, those kind of things. So she's accumulating these other superheroes and supervillains' power. But what Squirrel Girl does to save the situation is she relies on her friends. Okay, so Doreen gets sent to the moon at some point. Also, though, she picks up Thor's hammer because, of course, she's worthy. Of course she is. She frees all the supers in order to take the clone down. In the last little bit, Tippy Toe sacrifices herself in order to save Doreen. She gets crushed and she's almost dead. And everyone tells Doreen to let Tippy go. But Doreen refuses to give up. She organizes all of the supers in order to save Tippy's life. And heck yeah, she does. Because if that graphic novel had ended with Tippy Toad dying, I'd be pretty upset. So that's Squirrel Girl. I really enjoyed reading her. I thought she was really awesome. I thought she was so awesome that I wanted to give her not only a podcast episode, but I wanted to try out doing my first video with her, and I think it went pretty well. You can contact me. You can find articles, podcasts, videos like this one on my Tumblr, psych-superheroes@tumblr.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, and you can also watch the video for this episode on YouTube. You can contact me, please do, because I love being contacted. I love it when you guys ask me things or have questions or suggestions, whatever. It's cool interacting, I think, part of the fun. But you can contact me on Twitter at super_psych, and please check out my Patreon page at www.patreon.com/Psychology of Superheroes. Thank you guys so much for listening or watching or both. I'll see you guys next time.